The midnight pawn shop by the story's nest. The sign didn't flicker. In a city of neon that stuttered and buzzed, the sign for the brokerage was terrifyingly steady. It simply glowed with a dull golden light, hanging over a heavy iron door in an alleyway that Google Maps swore didn't exist. Elias Thorne was not looking for a pawn shop. He was looking for a way out. Elias was 35, but his soul felt 80. He was drowning in debt, not just financial, but emotional. His wife Sarah had left 3 months ago, taking the color of the walls and the smell of coffee with her. His job as a data analyst was a slow-motion car crash of deadlines he couldn't meet. He was walking in the rain at 2 a.m. because sleeping felt like a waste of time he didn't have. He stopped in front of the iron door. He didn't know why. Maybe it was the rain soaking through his coat. Maybe it was the sign, "We buy what you cannot carry." Elias pushed the door. It swung open without a creak. Inside, the shop smelled of ozone and old parchment. The walls were lined with shelves, but there were no guitars, no diamond rings, no stolen power tools. Instead, the shelves were filled with glass jars, thousands of them. Inside each jar, a smoky colored mist swirled, blues, angry reds, deep purples. "We are closing in 5 minutes," a voice said. Elias jumped. Behind a high mahogany counter sat a man who looked like he had been carved out of driftwood. He was impossibly old, wearing a suit that was out of fashion a century ago. "I'm not here to sell," Elias stammered. "I just came in out of the rain." "Everyone is here to sell, Mr. Thorne," the old man said. He didn't look up from a large, leather-bound ledger he was writing in. Elias froze. "How do you know my name?" The old man finally looked up. His eyes were pale gray, like cataracts or storm clouds. "I know the names of everyone who carries too much weight. I am Mr. Sterling. Welcome to the brokerage." Mr. Sterling gestured to the empty stool in front of the counter. "Sit. Tell me, what is heavy tonight? Is it the debt, or is it the silence in your apartment?" Elias sat slowly. His heart was hammering. "What kind of place is this?" "A pawn shop," Sterling said simply. "But we don't deal in material goods. Matter is cheap. We deal in the only currency that matters: experience, memory, emotion." Sterling tapped the ledger. "You can sell me anything, Elias. A bad memory, a fear, a regret. I will take it out of your head, put it in a jar, and pay you for it. Cash, gold, luck, whatever you need." Elias laughed, a dry, nervous sound. "You want to buy my memories?" "Only the heavy ones," Sterling said. "Think about it. The memory of the night Sarah left, the sound of the door closing, the image of her suitcase in the hall. It keeps you awake, doesn't it? It eats at you. What if I took it away? What if I gave you $50,000 for it?" Elias stared at him. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Sterling reached under the counter and pulled out a small empty glass jar. He unscrewed the lid. "Focus on the memory, Elias. The worst one. The one that hurts the most." Elias closed his eyes. He didn't want to, but the image was always there, waiting. The fight in the kitchen. The way Sarah had looked at him, not with anger, but with disappointment. That crushing weight in his chest. "Open your eyes," Sterling whispered. Elias opened them. He felt a strange sensation, like a cold wind passing through his skull. He saw a wisp of gray smoke drift from his forehead and swirl into the jar. Sterling capped it quickly. Elias blinked. He looked around. He felt lighter. He knew Sarah had left. He knew they were divorced. But the pain, the sharp, stabbing agony of that specific moment in the kitchen, it was gone. It felt like reading a sad fact in a history book. It happened, but it didn't hurt. Sterling placed a heavy stack of cash on the counter. $50,000 for the pain. Elias stared at the money. Then he stared at the jar. The gray smoke swirled angrily inside. "I can really sell anything. Anything that burdens you," Sterling smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Elias became a regular. It started small. He sold the memory of a humiliating presentation at work. He got a promotion the next day. He sold the fear of public speaking. He became the boldest voice in the boardroom. He sold his anxiety. He sold his boredom. He sold the memory of his childhood dog dying. With every sale, his bank account grew. He bought a penthouse. He bought a car that cost more than his father's house. He was successful. He was confident. He was untouchable. He was also becoming hollow. It was subtle at first. Food didn't taste as vibrant. Sunsets looked flat. When he laughed, it felt like a mechanical reaction, not a burst of joy. One rainy Tuesday, 6 months after he first found the shop, Elias walked in. He looked perfect. Tailored suit, Swiss watch, perfect hair, but his eyes were empty. "Mr. Sterling," Elias said, "I need to sell something else." Sterling looked up from his ledger. The shelves behind him were fuller now. "You are running low on inventory, Elias." "I have a recurring nightmare," Elias said, "about a woman. I can't see her face, but she's crying. It bothers me. I want it gone." Sterling paused. He looked at Elias with a mixture of pity and hunger. "That is not a nightmare, Elias. That is the echo of your wife. You sold the specific memory of her leaving, but your subconscious is trying to fill the gap. If you sell the echo, you will forget her completely. You won't just lose the pain. You will lose the love." "I don't care," Elias snapped. I don't want to be sad." "How much?" "For the last trace of love?" Sterling mused. "That is a premium item. $1 million. Done." Elias closed his eyes. He focused on the vague, sad figure in his dreams. He felt the cold wind. He felt the pull. When he opened his eyes, Sterling was screwing the lid onto a jar filled with a smoke that was a beautiful, heartbreaking gold. "Here is your money," Sterling said, sliding a check across the counter. Elias picked it up. $1 million. He looked at the check. He felt nothing. No joy. No relief. Just a dull acceptance. He turned to leave. "Wait," Sterling said. "You forgot your receipt." "I don't need a receipt." "Everyone takes a receipt eventually," Sterling said enigmatically. Elias walked out. The crash happened 2 days later. Elias was driving his sports car too fast on the highway. He wasn't speeding for the thrill. He was speeding because he was trying to feel something. Anything. Fear. Excitement. Panic. But there was nothing. Just a flat, gray silence in his head. He didn't see the truck. The impact was violent. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. The world spun and went black. Elias woke up in a white room. It was silent. He tried to sit up, but he couldn't move. He wasn't in a hospital bed. He was floating. He looked around. He was surrounded by glass, curved glass. Panic, real, sharp, cold panic, finally hit him. He pounded on the wall. It rang with a dull clink. He looked beyond the glass. He saw a giant wooden shelf. He saw other jars next to him. In the jar to his left, a red mist screamed silently. In the jar to his right, a blue fog wept. Elias looked out. He saw a mahogany counter. He saw a man in an old suit writing in a ledger. "Help!" Elias screamed. "Let me out!" Mr. Sterling looked up, but he wasn't looking at Elias. He was looking at a customer standing at the counter, a young woman, crying, soaking wet from the rain. "I just want the sadness to go away," the woman was sobbing. "I just want to forget him." "I can help with that," Sterling purred. "I buy what you cannot carry." "Hey!" Elias screamed. He pounded against the glass. "I'm here. I'm alive." Sterling stood up and walked over to the shelf. He picked up the jar Elias was trapped in. Elias looked into the giant gray eyes of the shopkeeper. "Where am I?" Elias mouthed. Sterling brought the jar close to his face. His voice boomed, vibrating through the glass. "You are in the inventory, Elias." "Inventory? But I sold you my memories." "No," Sterling smiled sadly. "You misunderstood the nature of the transaction. You thought you were the seller. But you were never the seller, Elias. You were the product." Sterling tapped the glass. "A human being is nothing but a collection of stories, memories, feelings. When you sold them all, one by one, you didn't become rich. You became empty, and an empty vessel is just a jar waiting to be filled." Sterling turned the jar around. There was a label on the side. Elias read it backward through the glass. Item number 1422, The Hollow Man. Contents, pure regret. "But I have money," Elias screamed. "I have millions." "Money is paper," Sterling said. "This." He shook the jar, sending Elias tumbling through the golden smoke of his own lost love. "This is valuable. There are collectors who pay a fortune to feel what it's like to lose everything." Sterling walked back to the counter. He looked at the crying woman. "Now, miss," Sterling said, "to buy this sadness from you, I will need to trade. How about a little confidence? I have a fresh supply right here." He held up Elias's jar. "No," Elias screamed as the lid began to unscrew. "No, please. I want the pain back. I want the sadness back. It's mine. It's who I am." But the woman just nodded. The lid came off. Elias felt himself being pulled out, unraveling, turning into smoke, flowing into the woman's mind. He was no longer Elias. He was just a feeling. He was just a ghost haunting someone else's life. The sound of rain returns abruptly. A car horn honks loudly. Elias gasped, his lungs burning. He was standing on the sidewalk. It was night. It was raining. He was soaking wet. He was standing in front of an alleyway. He checked his watch. 2 a.m. He patted his chest. His heart was hammering, hard, painful, anxious beats. He felt the crushing weight of his debt. He felt the sharp, stinging agony of Sarah leaving. He felt the exhaustion of his job. It hurt. It hurt so much he wanted to fall to his knees and weep, and it was the most beautiful thing he had ever felt. He looked at the alleyway. The iron door was there. The sign, the brokerage, was flickering now, buzzing like a dying insect. Elias backed away. He started to laugh, a deep, wet, hysterical laugh. He turned and ran. He ran away from the shop. He ran toward his empty, silent apartment. He ran toward his debt. He ran toward his pain. He was going to go home. He was going to sit on his floor and cry about his wife until his eyes burned. He was going to feel every single second of it. He reached into his pocket for his keys. His fingers brushed against something else, something cold and hard. He pulled it out under the street lamp. It wasn't a key. It was a small glass jar, empty, and wrapped around it was a receipt. Refund issued. It read in elegant script. Reason: defective merchandise. Customer realized the value of the goods. Elias crushed the receipt in his hand, threw the jar into the gutter, and walked home to pay his bills. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more such stories and books.